Oh, onboarding. New users of your product or service need help figuring things out. And a lot of companies just get this wrong. Is your company doing a good job of welcoming new users? My guess is no if you are watching this video. But I am here to help. There is this great book by Krystal Higgins called Better Onboarding, and it is jam-packed full of great tips and examples. But you know, the funny thing about reading a book full of great stuff is it takes time to read. But I'm going to share the best of the best from Better Onboarding so you don't have to read the book yourself. I'm working on a project that covers onboarding at financial institutions. So I wanted to get familiar with what I could when it comes to onboarding. One way I did that was a little bit of secondary desk research using AI to learn about onboarding. I did a little recording of that if you want to check it out. It's kind of silly. Anyways, back to this book, Better Onboarding. I wanted not only to understand onboarding at banks, I also wanted to level set on onboarding in general and how user experience best practices can play into a good onboarding experience. That is where this book, Better Onboarding, falls into my research. I'm going to give you my top 5 takeaways from Better Onboarding so you don't have to read the book. So let's dive in. The first thing is, onboarding is a journey. Onboarding is an ongoing process and not just a one-time event, even though a lot of companies do treat it that way. It involves guiding users through their journey, from the first interaction with your product or your company to becoming a master of the product. What that means is that you need to help users onboard as they go, rather than overwhelming them with all the shit up front. And that's the problem with a lot of onboarding. Companies want to make people do all the things right away. They do things like fill in this information, verify who you are, sign up for this product and this feature. Let us know all of your goals. That's a lot of things to ask people to do on their first interaction with your product. A better onboarding experience is interacting with your user periodically, like maybe when they log in the next time and the next time after that. Ask for little bits of info or show them major features as they go along, not necessarily all on the first go. I also want to mention that onboarding is more than just a tour or a tutorial or a wizard of your product. Honestly, this is a cop-out that a lot of companies take. Just throw a pop-up and show them how to use the product. Boo. How many times have you just closed a pop-up or a tour because it was in the way and you didn't even read it? I know that I'm guilty of this. The infamous wizard or tour is more of a band-aid when it comes to onboarding your user. We can do better. Instead of relying solely on upfront tutorials, we can integrate prompts and hints that appear as people perform tasks. This method supports active learning and helps users build confidence as they navigate the product. It also avoids them feeling overwhelmed because we're not throwing a bunch of shit at them at the very beginning. The second point I want to highlight in Better Onboarding is, in order to understand what onboarding should look like, you have to understand the user's journey. You need to understand where people are starting and where they need to go. And to do this, mapping out those critical moments in that user's journey, such as first use, setting their goals and their agenda, and when users get stuck. You need to map these kinds of things out. Also, you should have a good idea or do research to better understand this. What are the critical tasks or jobs to be done that user is trying to do? And what are they trying to accomplish first, then second, then third? Knowing these things can help you tailor that onboarding experience to fit the moments and the milestones that matter. And you know what? There's not just going to be one journey, usually. There are likely to be multiple journeys. And I love in this book how Krystal goes through this exercise to identify the core use of a user. And this is the main reason why they're using your product. It's the center of it all. Then the next ring out, you identify those core routines. And these are the behaviors that are key for the user to be successful at that core use. Then outside of that ring, you identify the key actions that go from one of the core routines. Identify each step, but you kind of move backwards from the core use. It's kind of strange. What you're trying to do here is surface potential onboarding requirements by identifying the things that are needed for a user to reach their goal, or in this case, that core use. And you're kind of working backwards from that core use through the routines to the entry point. And like I said, Krystal does a great job of illustrating this in her book. What's cool about this approach is it allows for a few things. You identify the main thing that a person is trying to do. Then you write down the key routines or actions that a person must do to accomplish that core use. Finally, you map out the steps going backwards from completion to how they got started. That way you can see the steps needed to help a person onboard into your product. And the cool thing is you are doing this through what the user needs to do, not what the company thinks the user needs to do, right? It's very user-centric. Woohoo! Love that. Now, you're probably going to have to do this for a few journeys. Each core routine will have a different path of tasks and maybe even a different entry point. By understanding these journeys, though, you can then design an ideal onboarding experience. Krystal has some great examples of what this looks like in her book. Honestly, if you want more, feel free to get the book and read all about it. She does have some really good illustrations of how this works. Hey, if you're liking this video, make sure that you hit the subscribe and the notifications so that you do not miss future content from little old me. All right, let's get back to the next major takeaway. Number 3 is you want to guide the action. If you think about it, onboarding is basically 3 things: the prompt to start, the work to do, and the follow-up to end it. 3 things. Hey, no. Stuff it. So let's break those down. No. Stop it. The prompt is what gets the person started. This can come in a number of forms, like a link from a landing page or an offer that was enticing to the user. Basically, you want to attract the user by being in the right place at the right time and showcasing the benefit of your product to the user. Next, the work to do it. This is pulling the user through the experience. What's important to note here is you want consistency through this process. Have you ever received an email or you were on a website and you click a link to go to an offer that sounded really appealing, but then when you got there, things looked totally different? So things are kind of weird now and you feel like you're in the wrong place. We do not want to do this when we are designing experiences. We want to build trust by making the experience feel uniform, no matter where that path goes. So keep that design and that experience consistent from all the touch points. It's also handy to give people options. If they don't want to do all of the tasks you are asking them to do right now, let them pick it up again later. Let them do things another way. Maybe they can take a picture of their ID instead of inputting all the fields manually typing in that information. You want to make sure that people understand why they are providing the information and the value it will bring for them to complete your steps in your onboarding process. And then finally, there's the follow-up. Have you ever completed a transaction, but you weren't sure if the payment went through? Ooh, this is the worst. I hate it. There's no confirmation telling you things are done. You don't know if you were successful. There is nothing telling you of next steps. We do not want to do this for our users. We do not want to leave them hanging. Acknowledge success and let people know they have accomplished the goal. This builds trust and confidence in your product. There is nothing worse than hitting that submit or that confirm button and nothing changes. Oh, I hate this. I think, did it go through? Do I hit it again? What happens if I hit it again? Are they going to charge me twice? Or am I going to have some kind of error? Don't do this. Do not put your users in this compromised position. Close that confidence loop with them. Confirm that things are done and all is well. What do you think? Do you like what you're hearing so far? Well, if you do, hit that like button for me. Woo, fireworks. Okay. Let's move on to point number 4. We're going to talk about design for a little bit. And if design is not your forte, that is okay. Stick around because I have some info that's important for everyone, even our non-designers. Better Onboarding does a great job of diving deep and giving examples of how to create an experience and how to design interfaces that actually guide the user through onboarding. I'm not really going to give this book justice here because I'm just sharing some of the top tips that I thought were great in this book. You might want to check out the book if you want to see a deeper dive into some of those design examples. First of all, make sure that users understand what they need to act upon. This is where affordances come into play. And for those of you who are maybe not familiar with what an affordance is, that is when the object has properties that help you understand how to use it. For example, a light switch. People understand that flipping it one way turns the light on and flipping it the other way turns it off. On websites, a clickable link is an affordance. That's why it's still a good idea to stick that traditional treatment of a link with the blue text and the underline. This is because people generally know that a set of words is clickable when they see it that way, blue with that underline. It's a traditional interaction pattern. Another example, a door handle. Well, that's unless it's one of those Norman doors, and you know what I'm talking about, the kind that you don't know if you should push or you pull. I don't know why I keep getting fireworks. Anyway, by using familiar visual clues, people know how to take action on them. I have to say, buttons, they can be a little bit tricky. Some buttons look like chips or pills and other interface design elements. And sometimes people don't know what's a clickable button versus a tag versus a label. Oh, we're just confusing things with our designs. Woo, don't get me started. Let's not do a deep dive into UI patterns and visual design. All I'm saying is make sure people know how to interact with your product. Don't be so clever that it causes people to get lost or confused. Not cool. And speaking of not being clever and not causing people to get lost, that goes the same for a clean information architecture. Organize items in your onboarding in a way that makes sense. Also, don't use cryptic words or technical jargon that someone might not understand. Clarity is king. This is all about making the flow so seamless that the user just glides right through the onboarding experience. We do not want to throw up roadblocks for them to keep them from reaching their success and causing confusion. People hate that. Don't do it. Finally, Krystal talks about how to set up your onboarding for success. Onboarding is rarely perfect from the beginning, and that is okay. She stresses the importance of testing and iterating. Regularly get feedback and track key metrics like completion rates and drop-off rates. Even small little tweaks can lead to big improvements on how a person engages with your product and completes your onboarding process. So how do you do this? Through research, of course. Assess and refine your onboarding based on user feedback and testing and observing behavior. If people are stopping at a certain point, go investigate why. You can do a competitive analysis to see how other products are tackling their onboarding challenge. Now, I am not saying go out and copy what they are doing. No, I'm not saying that. But they might have some inspiration for you to try new things in your own way in your onboarding flow. There you have it. Hopefully, you found my summary of Better Onboarding helpful for you to go out there and to start designing great experiences. Remember, onboarding isn't just about showing users how to use your product. It's about guiding them through a journey, meeting them where they are, helping them succeed. But honestly, I just skimmed the surface of this book. It's not a super long read, and there's a number of great examples with visuals in the book. So, is it worth reading yourself? Yeah, I would say it is. You might want to check it out. And I'll have a link in the show notes so that you can pick up the book if you'd like to. And one last thing. What book should I read so that you don't have to? Leave me a comment and let me know what professional or UX related book I should summarize to save you time. Thank you so much. Bye.